Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Tiptoe Through the Tulips. Had I been on the ball, I would have gotten this out about a week and a half ago, right before Mother's Day. So, this is still dedicated to all those wonderful mothers out there. And if you enjoy this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. So come for a walk with me and see what pretty flowers we can see. I'm in major zoom right now. I'm trying to keep it as still as I can, but the geese have their babies, and they're yellow. Brand new. That's Branta canadensis, Canada geese. So in the last episode of Totally Wild Food, we showed you the camas, and we described the death camas. Well, here is an actual death camas. Okay, so this is the actual death camas bulb, and you can see that it looks very similar, a little more bulbous than the actual camas. It's okay to touch it, just don't ingest it. Yeah, so this is the death camas, Toxicoscordion venenosum, like even just a terrible name. Alright, so we're going to take this along with us, and we're going to go and dig up a camas. Okay, so this is why you need to be so careful. This is the camas. Beautiful purple flower, which has a white variant, but you can see that the flowers are completely different. The death camas, they're more of a cluster of tinier flowers, and the actual camas is more spread out. Alright, the bulbs are very similar, a little bit smaller on the camas, but this isn't a huge plant. And here we have the leaves side by side. I'll get them the same way up. So you can see that one is a V shape and one is a U, and the V shape is the death camas. You can see it doesn't have a mid vein going right up the center, whereas the camas does. And then I want you to take a look at the actual site of where all the camas are. Alright, so now take a look at this and forget about the purple flowers, and then take a look at this. So now disregard the white flowers, and you really can't tell the difference when it's just the green. It just looks like grass. But beautiful flowers though, nonetheless. Big clusters of these. And here, behind this old stump, is a beautiful flower. This is in the orchid family. This is the spotted coral root, Coral Rhiza maculata. This beautiful plant is non-photosynthetic. It does not have any green leaves. And as a matter of fact, any leaves it did have, they degraded into this kind of a sheath, and it wraps around the stem. So yeah, it's the orchids are one of the largest families of flowering plants. And because these guys are non-photosynthetic, you're going, well, where are they getting their carbohydrates from? These guys parasitize the fungal mycelium in the forest here, and they actually associate with several different species, apparently, according to their genotype. And one of the ones that they do parasitize are the russulas, or russula, or russula, however you want to pronounce it. And I know that we have the brevipes out here, we have the pseudocigarum, we have the russula gramínea, and so I know that they're out here. I'm not sure if they actually parasitize on other mushroom mycelium, other species, but those are the ones that I do know that are out here. They're very, very, very delicate little flowers, as you can see. So yeah, so it's pretty neat with the photosynthesis, the non-photosynthesizing plant, is that normally they have a give and take relationship with the mycelium of the fungus that are out here. These ones do not. These are takers. These guys reverse the whole process, so instead of giving carbohydrates to the mycelium and receiving water in return and other micronutrients, this one reverses it and just takes. It just takes the carbohydrates from the mycelium and it doesn't stop. Now there are many, many other plants that do this with the fungal mycelium. However, they only do it during their germination period. And as soon as they're done germinating, they go back to photosynthesizing and creating their own carbohydrates, and they're self-sustaining. These ones don't. Through their whole life cycle, they are constantly parasitizing the mushroom mycelium. And for medicinal uses, they were used by the First Nations for colds, pneumonia, skin irritation, and for increasing your blood supply. It's funny that that one was by itself. We've got several right here of the same. Looks like the deer like them as well. I did not realize that. But they're all coming up in here. So I am very curious. I'm going to actually mark this spot, and I'm curious as to see what mushrooms come up out of here. And I know I've shown these a couple times before, but this is Torrey's Blue-Eyed Marys, Colensia torreyi. Tiny, tiny little creepers. Make up beautiful little carpets in the moss. It's just everywhere. And growing all through here, we have the tufted vetch, and it's Vicia cracca. Vicia is derived from a Latin name, which means to bind together. And they've got many, many flowers that have all bound together on these beautiful vines. These are in the pea family and are edible. I don't mind actually the flavor of them, and they're quite tasty. So, yeah, they're sweet. They remind me of the pea pods. So, very good, and I know cattle love them. But yeah, it's also called bird vetch. So tufted vetch or bird vetch. But pretty neat stuff, and it'll grow in pretty much any field or any forest that it can get a little bit of sunshine and water, like most plants. Well, these guys can take over an entire field. These are the creeping buttercup, Ranunculus repens. And yeah, they're sweetie little things, admitted, but you know, like I say, they're very, very invasive, and they just go crazy in fields. There's not really anything good comes out of them except for the flowers, and keeps the bees and the Hymenoptera, you know, fed and whatnot. But ranunculus means frog, believe it or not, and I'm assuming that it's due to the fact that they grow in a lot of moist areas. And repens means creeping. So there you have the whole history of these creeping buttercups. However, a pain in the bum, very nice to look at. So if this is any indication to you, this, you can see all the yellow. This is how these buttercups can take over entire fields. It's crazy. But they have their niche in our environment, and they are needed in one way, shape, or form. And this is another one that will take over entire fields. This is the oxeye daisy, Leucanthemum vulgare. And look at how many are in there. This is all going to get cut down fairly soon anyways, but because it's a hayfield. But these guys are edible, and as I'd mentioned before on another video about the field daisy, Bellis perennis, daisy comes from the term day's eye. In the daytime it's open, and nighttime it's closed. Like that one's just not quite open yet, because it's still early morning. But in amongst you still have all the buttercups, the ranunculus, redonculus. But yeah, totally edible. You can eat the leaves, flowers, throw them in a salad or whatever you like. And since I just happened to mention them, and we were showing the oxeye daisies, here are the field daisies, Bellis perennis. You can tell they're just a miniature version of the oxeyes. And these guys are also edible, from the flowers all the way down to the roots. But in amongst them all is the Gallium aperine. which is also called the cleaver or the sticky willy. And these guys have the tiniest little flowers. Look at that. These little flowers will turn into little balls with spiky hairs all over them, and they will become what we call hitchhiker seeds. So they'll glom onto either people's clothing or animals' fur, and they go for a walk further away and carry that, and they'll eventually drop off and grow a new plant somewhere else. Now, I've shown you the chickweed before when we were harvesting it for a salad, but this is the flower on this little beautiful thing here, and I'm just going to pop one off to bring it in. And another, again, a dainty little tiny flower. And for also, again, for identifying, there will be a mohawk of little fine hairs going down one side of the stem, and once it hits a node, it'll switch probably 180 degrees. This is one of the biggest Pacific dogwoods that I know of, and this is Cornus natalii, and we'll get you a little bit closer, but just want to show you how many flowers are on this beautiful beast. This is the flower is our provincial flower, the dogwood flower, and the bark was used for tonics for throat and mouth sores and things like that. Not a lot of uses. There are more, I'm sure, but I have not found any. So we'll get you in a little bit closer. Yeah, here we go. Beautiful 4-petal, and I guess they call this natalii due to this big nut in the middle, as it were. I know that the wood was used for like harpoon shafts and shafts for other implements and things like that. But as for medicinal, like I say, it's pretty much was used for throat sore, like sore throats and mouth sores and whatnot. But yeah, they can live up to 150 years old, these beautiful creatures. And when walking through the nice green grassy fields, you're quite often going to come across some beautiful little hidden flowers down in the grass. This is another geranium. This is Geranium mole, and it's also known as the dove's foot crane's bill. See if you can see that flower, make it out a little bit. Sweetie little thing. And the dove's foot comes from, the name comes from the flower petal. The flower itself is supposed to look like a dove's foot, and the little fruits that come off that are supposed to look like a crane's bill. You know, I think that's up to interpretation. But mole means soft, and it's referring to all the hairs that are all over the stem and the leaves and the flower. Very, very sweet. And they're just kind of all in through here. This one's kind of hard to miss. Beautiful pink flowers. This is the flowering red currant, Ribes sanguineum. And every year the berries come out, and every year the birds and the deer get them all. But I apologize for this plane that's taking off the ocean there. But yeah, beautiful little flowers. They don't have much of a smell. They kind of actually have not a nice odor to them. But they'll be covered in berries, and I'm actually thinking of netting it so I can actually keep some of the berries. I mean, put a fence around it, not netting it. Those will hurt the birds. Yeah, pretty neat. This is the only one on the property, too. Now, although this is an invasive plant and a real pain in the buttocks for anybody who owns property, but this is Satissus scoparius. But this is Satissus scoparius, the Scotch broom, and it comes in both the full yellow and has a red variant. It's not edible. I believe it's slightly toxic. However, I believe that they can extract dyes from this plant, greens and hues of blue. But yeah, although they're invasive, they are pretty. Cut broom while in bloom, they say. And we got a couple of chatterboxes up here. Those are the juncos. And I'm not sure of their Latin name, but just sweetie little birds. They're all over the place, like the chickadees and the nuthatches. But they definitely make our forests interesting. And at the very least, not boring. Now usually these guys are out in the field and whatnot. This one's right in the middle of the forest. This is the common dandelion, Taraxacum officinale. Everything about them is edible. They're going to grow out of an entire single stalk and have one flower at the top. They'll come out of a big rosette base, and several of these shoots can come up and have several flowers, but each one is allocated to its own stalk. Everything about these guys are edible. And they're full of polyphenols, which is an anti-cancer agent, and the flower heads actually have 115 times more polyphenols than the rest of the plant. You can take the root and roast it up and make it into an alternative coffee. No caffeine, unfortunately, but when you need something in the morning, sometimes just the flavor will work. These beauties are just starting to come out. These are the orange honeysuckles, Lonicera ciliosa. They're just taking over this bush. These beautiful things. These the hummingbirds absolutely love. And you can take these little knobs off the bottom here, and then give it a suck, and you're going to get some sweet little bit of nectar in there. Very, very nice. Well, this is kind of neat. It's actually growing on an oso-berry bush, Onlaria cerasiformis. There's also known as the Indian plum, because when they get darker, they get dark like a prune plum. It's also called Oregon peach, which at this point in their life cycle is very, very tart and bitter. So you're going to want to wait until they darken up. They do have slight traces of cyano compounds in them, and so you've got to be careful of your consumption, but you know, just like everything else, in moderation. But these are really, really neat. They're everywhere, and there's new little plants popping up out of the ground all over the place. Yeah, very neat. But we're going to carry on and see what other flowers we can find. And I might take a couple of these to suck on for the trip. Here's another beautiful pink wildflower. It's related to the raspberry, and it's Rubus spectabilis, the salmonberry. And their berries will range from like a light orange all the way up to a dark red. And all on the same plant too. It's amazing. But they all taste the same, and they're just delicious. And looks like this one will actually form a few. It's already lost its petals, and those will become berries. Very cool. Can't wait. Okay, well, we're down in the riparian zone. And we should be seeing some North American bullfrog tadpoles around here somewhere, because they're everywhere in any waterway on the island here. They normally all scramble once you get close to the water. I'm not seeing any activity at the moment. I find that kind of odd. Nonetheless, the reason why we are here is because of this beautiful yellow flower. This is the yellow pond lily, Nuphar polysepala, meaning many sepals. And these guys, once they start to form their seeds in here, you can actually take those and pop them like popcorn. It's pretty amazing. These guys are edible. Their roots are, well, they're always underwater, and they stink of mud when you pull them up, and they're just really not appealing at all. And once I have found one that has gone to seed, I will take the seeds and try popping them. And they come out kind of like popcorn apparently, but worth a try. We'll find out. And I'm just going to show you a picture of the root system. They're big old stinky tubers. So these ones, you can see the water's receded, and these guys will still grow even though the water is receded, because they'll still find water because it's only 5 feet away. But yeah, these big old things that look like sticks are their rhizomes, their tubers. And really not appealing in the slightest. I don't know if I can get up to them, but the blue heron just flew in. Ardea Herodias. This is the dawning of Ardea Herodias. Ardea Herodias. We'll catch up to them. They're just very camouflaged and very quiet and stealthy. Where is that big fella? I know I saw him land in here. Oh, there he is. See you, big fella. And here we have the flowering false Solomon seal, Meanthemum racemosum. And these smell amazing. Oh, wow. I would say on the lines close to like a lilac. Just really, really nice. So these guys will have a nice cluster of berries where this flower is, and provided the deer don't eat them. And they're very tasty. And when these plants are actually really young and still spiraled around themselves, they are great in a stir fry. You can eat them, they're totally edible. And they're kind of like asparagus. It's the best definition I can give you of what they taste like. But yeah, just amazing, amazing plants. And the deer and the birds will probably get all the berries before I even come close to getting to any, but, you know, I'll just keep an eye on it closely. Oh, it just smells up the forest. Oh, so nice. So this big flush in here is the false lily of the valley, or western lily of the valley, Meanthemum dilatatum. And you've probably heard the Meanthemum name before, and that is the false Solomon seal. These guys are related, and you can tell that they also have that puff of little tiny dainty flowers. And the leaves are edible when they're young, and the tubers are as well. So yeah, you can make that into, you can add them into stews, stir fries, add them into your lasagna if you like, the young ones. But more pretty flowers. Yeah, you can even see that the flowers are so similar to the false Solomon seal. So weird, they are both classified as false plants, this one being the false lily of the valley and the other false Solomon seal. Very cool. These guys will also get berries, which are totally edible as well. So awesome all the way around. I knew these were here for years, but I had no idea of the edibility, and I had no idea they had berries. So how bizarre. How bizarre. We have a couple of little beauties in here. We've got, this is the Herb Robert, Geranium robertianum, and these just delicate little flowers. These sweet little pinstripes all down the petals. And these guys are edible, believe it or not. There's not a lot to them, but you know, you can throw them in a salad or whatever you like. We'll see what they kind of taste like. Well, they're kind of hairy. Not the greatest flavor, but you know, they're not going to hurt you if you eat them. Whew, just had a mosquito fly up my nose. What a buzz. Right here, we have the Western Starflower. Just a sweet little thing, also known as the broadleaf starflower, Trientalis latiifolia. The latiifolia means broadleaf, and these guys are not really classified on the edible scale, and they don't really have much in the means of medicinal uses either. But they are quite pretty, and they go from white to slightly pink like these ones, and then right over here, if I can get my camera uncaught, and there's a whole swack more of them. Let's get in a little bit closer. Definitely see why they get their name, starflower. And the flowers of the trailing Pacific blackberry are out. These are the flowers of the Rubus ursinus. And I am really, really hoping that we're going to get some nice berries off of this. Well, they're all through the forest out here, really. But it's just a waiting game, really, is what it comes down to. But yeah, just beautiful, beautiful little flowers, no smell. And, but the berries are just absolutely full of flavor. And just growing out of the bank here, we've got these little wild strawberries, Fragaria virginiana. Now, Fragaria means fragrant, and I don't find that these flowers are fragrant at all. The berries may give off a bit of a fragrance, but that is yet to be seen. But nonetheless, they're growing right beside some Rubus ursinus, which are trying to flower as well. So I think it's going to be a berry palooza this year, which will be great. May make a whole video out of just berries. And of course we can't not have the Oregon grape flower. This is Berberis nervosa. These things make really, really nice drinks if you infuse it in water. They smell up the forest like crazy. It's just fabulous. But yeah, the dwarf Oregon grape. Just finishing the flowers, and the berries that are edible will be coming out very soon. And of course we cannot pass by these little beauties without having to get some focus on them. These are the Siberian miner's lettuce, Claytonia siberica, and they're totally edible from the flower all the way down, leaves, stem, very, very tasty. It's got some very, very delicate little flowers, a couple of little pinstripes going down. These guys are full of iron, calcium, potassium. It's got really, really goodness, a lot of goodness for you. As for medicinal, don't know of any real medicinal purposes for them, but just the intake of them is just fabulous for your diet, honestly. And good fiber. Not to mention, beautiful to look at. And this is the vanilla leaf, Achilles triphylla. Absolutely looks like a Jurassic Park forest growing in here. And they've got beautiful long flowers on a spike that come right through the center of the three leaves. And not really a huge amount of smell, but pretty nonetheless. And you can take these leaves home and dry them out and make a nice potpourri out of them. You get a nice vanilla flavor, vanilla scent I should say. They are not edible. And I know we've already shown these beauties, but these are the chocolate lilies, Fritillaria affinis. Their bulbs are edible, kind of like little large actual rice bulblets as it were. Not very deep into the soil. Almost finished though. Most of them have already dried up and shriveled. This one's still going fairly strong if I can actually... There we go. Oh, beautiful thing. Of all the wild spring flowers, and I love them all, but I think this one is my favorite. This is Calypso bulbosa, the fairy slipper. And very, very dainty. And they've got that main bottom here, this lip, is actually a couple of petals that have fused. And there is a variant, a white variant, which I have one growing right next to another one, just around the corner here, so I'm going to get you over to that. We have the two different variants side by side. Look at that. Just gorgeous. I'll try and get a shot of both the... Look at that. Just absolutely gorgeous. Now the bulbs are edible, and they can be eaten raw or cooked. And back in the day, the First Nation maidens believed that the bulb increased their bust size. Probably not true, so don't go out pillaging the forest. So one of the neat little things about the fairy slippers is these two fused little petals down here called the labellum form a little slipper, as it were, And the Hymenoptera, or the wasps and bees and ants, also the Diptera, the flies, they go into this little hole. And there are little hairs that guide them along, like a little pathway, till they get where the pollen is. And then they have to actually squeeze past the little pollen stamens, I believe, and then they can find their way out. And then once they find their way out, they go to the next little flower and do the same thing. Well, that brings this video to a close. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you tune in for our next video. Not sure what it's going to be, but it'll just be a surprise. Till next time, my friends, stay safe.